So let's start our session. And this session is basically based on the level of cyber forensics. We can in this session, we are in this particular training, we are going to learn about how the cyber forensic investigator basically works, and what is cyber forensic, what is computer forensic, and different types of things that is related to the cyber as well as the computer forensic. So I am the instructor. You can see my name on the screen. My name is Rachit Goel, and basically I'm the instructor who can teach you to cyber forensics things and how to gather the evidence and different types of things that is related to like civil investigation, criminal investigation, and administrative investigation. I will teach you how to investigate a case, how to handle the case, and how to handle analyzing the evidence, how to examine the evidence and preserve the evidence and find out the clues from there and find out and create a chain of custody in that. So these are all the processes I will go to teach you in this particular level, that is a cyber forensic, which is called as a CHFI. Okay. So firstly, we will cover the course content, and after that we will start for the first module, that is the introduction. So just wait a minute, I will share my screen, and after you will see my screen on your laptop as well as desktop, and show the course content part. So I hope so. You are my screen is visible to all of you, and these are all the course content which you have to cover in this particular CHFI training. And this CHFI training is basically define you all the things that is related to like the cyber forensics as well as the computer forensics as an investigator, like how to investigate the case, how to solve the case, how to find out the evidence, how to find out the clues in that, how to examine, how to analysis, and how to perform the different types of techniques and methods for gathering the different types of evidence or that from the computing device that is based on the different OS based like a laptop and the desktop and the mobile phones, and as well as the different types of evidence we can find out the different types of devices also. So this is the complete course content which you define all the things that is related to the forensics parts, right? So in this part, in this whole course content, there is total 28 modules, and the starting module, that is the introduction of computer cyber forensics. So in this module, I am just going to teach you like what is computer forensics, that is a digital part, yeah, that is a sub part of the cyber forensics part, because in cyber forensics there are multiple types of fields for the forensics manner, but in this particular investigation, in this particular course, we are only going to discuss about the computer forensics things. So we are just going to discuss about what is computer forensics, what are the objectives of computer forensics, what is the motives of computer forensics, as well as we are also going to discuss about what is the type, how many types of cyber attack is basically done by the different types of cyber criminals, what is cyber crime, what is cyber attack, different types of cyber attack, as well as we are also going to discuss about like information and the different types of information which is compromised over the internet by the different types of users. So these are all the things which you have to cover into the introduction part of the cyber forensics, as well as we are also going to discuss about like cyber terrorism thing, which is also included into the introduction part of cyber forensics. And at the end of session, we are going to discuss about the cyber law. That is very important thing, because if you are working as an investigator, so you need to know about the cyber laws of the every country, because if you are working as a cyber investigator, so you need to know about the cyber laws if you are handling any type of case that is related to the cyber forensics, right? So these are all the things which we covered into the part of first module, that is based on the introduction module. The next module, that is cyber forensics methods, and in this method module we are just going to cover the different types of technique, different types of method to handle the case, different types of things which is used to involve in a cyber forensic as well as a computer forensic. For an example, like a challenges are facing, different types of challenges are facing as an investigator once you are just going to handle the case. And we are also going to discuss the different types of forensics process, forensics methods, and the different types of like how many type of investigation process we have, that is based on the criminal, that is based on the civil, that is based on the administrative. And in this module we are also going to discuss about the different types of digital evidence also. Firstly, we are going to discuss about like what is digital evidence, and we are also going to discuss about like what type of evidence we have and different types of evidence you will gather on the different types of computing devices as well as the equipment, as well as we are also going to discuss about like different types of evidence as a potential evidence which you have to gather, which you have to gather from the incident phase as a computing device. So these are all the things which we are going to cover into the second module, that is based on the cyber forensics as a methods, right? Okay, so the next module that is based on the cyber forensic techniques. So in this part, we are basically going to cover the different types of techniques that is based on the cyber forensics. And in this part, we are discussing about few things that is related to like how to investigate the case with the using of different cyber forensic technique on the basis of readiness process, on the basis of lab setup, on the basis of like what type of investigator for involving to handle the different types of cases, and how like investigator must be looks like and not must be looks like. So these are all the things which we have to cover into the part of cyber forensic techniques. Okay, the next part, that next module, we can say that that is based on the system password cracking procedure in cyber forensics. So in that module, we are basically going to cover, we are basically going to crack the different types of system password. Suppose that you are just going on the incident place and you are just seeing the different types of systems are available in that particular incident place, and you just want to crack the password and open that system for the further process. So how we can perform that? By the using of password cracking procedure. So I'm just going to tell you like different types of password cracking procedures on the basis of Linux distributions, on the basis of Windows distributions, or with the different versions. So these are all the things which you have to cover into the part of cyber forensics as a system password cracking procedures. Okay. The next module that is based on the cyber forensics as a OS bypassing technique, and in this technique I will tell you like how to bypass any type of operating system, and you will get the files from that, as well as you can get the data from that, as well as you can get the information from that particular system without cracking the password. So why we need to use the OS bypassing techniques? So these are all the techniques. Once you are just going to cover this module, then I will tell you like why we use this technique for the OS bypassing as a cyber forensic investigator. Okay. The next module, that is a digital evidence as a disk image. So if you are working as a cyber forensic investigator, so you need to analyze the disk image, and you need to gather the image, acquire the image of the original evidence for the further process, for the analysis, for the examine, for the pretending, and different types of activity you can perform over that particular images file. So these are all the things which you have to cover into the part of disk images on the basis of Linux, on the basis of Windows. So I will tell you the two types of method for creating the disk image by the using of Linux distribution and by the using of Windows distribution. The next part, that is the hash calculation. So if you are going to discuss about like what is the need of hash calculation, because if you are just uploading if you are just submitting any type of evidence into the code, so the code is basically wanted a hash for examining that the same this image is the original image or not. So this is the process basically, this is the technique is basically using for analyzing the disk integrity. So the hash calculation is very important thing. So we are just gather the hashes of the different files like on the basis of MD5 hash, on the basis of SHA-1 hash, SHA-256. So these are all the things which you have to cover from the hash calculation thing. The next module, that is the write blocking and the data extraction technique. So if you are going to discuss about that module, so for the securing of the evidence integrity, so we need to apply the write blocking technique over that particular original evidence. So in that that no one can change, and no one can perform any type of alteration as well as the changing methods over that particular manipulation method over that particular drive as well as the disk image. So in that scenario, there is no change that will be applicable on that particular drive. So the integrity of the original drive is basically maintained. So this is the same thing which we have to cover. And one more thing will be covered into this particular write blocking technique. With the write blocking opening, that is a data extraction procedure. So in that scenario, we are just going to cover that is a data extraction procedure for the different types of using by the different types of tools for extract the data on the basis of different formats. So we are just going to cover these things into the eighth module, that is the write blocking and the data extraction technique. The next module, that is a file system. If you are working as a forensic investigator, so you need to know about the file systems, like what type of file system is used by the different types of evidence equipment device. We can say that like physical, like logical, like disk, like Linux based, like Windows based. So you need to know about that particular file system, like what type of file system is basically used by the different types of operating system. So this thing will be covered into the part of file systems in a cyber forensics. The next module, that is the analysis of file, that is completely related to the PDF files analysis, because there are some types of cases which you have to govern in that particular cyber forensics cyber forensics. So what the case will be covered, like the case is just like, suppose that you are just once you are just gather any type of a computing device on the incident place, and once you are just opening that particular device, so you are just seeing there is a multiple types of PDF file which is available in that particular device, or sometimes is a possibility of that PDF file is basically having, yeah, attached with the different types of malware. So after that, you need to firstly, you need to govern, you need to analyze that PDF file, and after that you will save your system. So this is the procedure basically covered into the part of analysis of PDF files. Okay. The next part, that is the registry forensics. Okay, what is registry forensic? Registry, if you know about the Windows operating system, so I guess you heard that name, that is a registry. So registry is a part of the computer Windows operating system, and in that every activity will be stored into the registry. So we can check the registry, we can perform the analysis procedure of the registry and find out the wireless type of evidence for govern the data, like the attacker system is basically connected like what type of network. So we can gather that type of information from the registry analysis in the part of the cyber forensics, right? The next part, that is the introduction of DOS attack on organization. So this is completely the type of investigation that is related to the web type of attacks, or in that scenario, the investigation of DOS attack is very important part, because the different types of criminal organizations are basically involving for applying, yeah, for performing the different types of DOS as well as a DDoS attack over that particular company. So in that scenario, the company is basically not grow up and the server is basically going to crash out. So what type of countermeasures we are using for securing that web attacks, and what type of procedure we are for analyzing that particular DOS attack by the using of network analysis in organization procedure. So these are the two lectures which you have to tell you, like which is basically involving to tell you like how you can perform, yeah, how you can perform any type of countermeasures, that is for using safe, for using your network safe. Okay, so that thing will be covered into the 13 and the 14 module. The next module, that is cyber forensics as firewall handler. Okay, so in that scenario, we are just performing the different types of countermeasure with the using of firewall handling procedures. So we can filter the packet on the basis of access control list, and that access control list will be designed with the using of different types of port on the base of images, sorry, not images, the IP addresses on the base of different types of other things also. So we can handle the firewall with the using of cyber forensic firewall handling and secure the connection. So there are two types of things which is related to the cyber forensics as a firewall. So the first part, that is firewall handling, and the second part, that is the firewall implementation. So these are the two lectures which will tell you like how to perform the countermeasure, how to secure your system, how to secure the integrity of the system, how to secure a system with the criminals organization. So this is the lecture, this is the modules which is covered into the module number of 15 and 16. The 17th module, that is cyber forensics as a encryption analysis, and the 8th, that is analysis of encrypted data. So in cyber forensics, suppose in cyber forensics you will get some types of details, some types of information which is in the form of hashes. So how would you extract the hash? How would you save the different types of files in that? So these are all the things which we have to cover into the part of as using the encryption analysis in a cyber forensics, as well as the analysis of encrypted data using cyber forensics, right? So the 18th and 19th session will define, sorry, that 17th and 18th session will define you all the things which is related to the firewalls. Okay, sorry, which is related to the encryption. Okay, the next module, that is the 19th one, cyber forensics as a case handling. So in this module, we are just going to learn about like if the any type of cyber criminal basically doing an activity over that particular case over the particular computing device. So in that scenario, once you are just creating the image of that particular original evidence, so after that you need to analyze that particular image file by the using of autopsy tool. So the autopsy is basically using for case handling procedures. Okay. The next thing, that is the email investigation. Now, what is that? By the using of email investigation, we can track the attacker's activity by the using of different types of procedures on the basis of different case, right? So the email conversation is basically the first priority and the first part evidence in email investigation, and in that we can get some data that is related to the packets and which is related to the different types of body sections also. So we can get some details from there like the IP address of the server, the SPF of the server. So we can get the every type of details from there. That is the email investigation. The next part, that is media investigation, and in media investigation we can get some data from there as a media. So these are all the part of the media investigation with the 21 and 22 module, gathering metadata about the image file. So in that we are just gather some data which is available into the disk, yeah, which is available into, yeah, behind the image file. So you can gather these type of data from there, which is called as a gathering of metadata about the image file as well as the disk analysis, extraction of data. The next part, that is the malware analysis, and in this part we will teach, I will teach you like how to analyze the malware on the basis of uh, physical activities, yeah, on the basis of static analysis procedures. Okay, so how we can perform that thing in malware analysis, we will see. The next, that is a mobile analysis. Okay, so what is mobile analysis? Mobile analysis is basically a part in which you can analyze the mobile phone and get some details from there as well as get some data from there. So this is a part of mobile analysis. Firmware analysis, every IoT device is basically using a type of OS which is called as a firmware. So we can analyze the firmware and find out the different types of information in that. So this is a part of firmware analysis. Investigation of log files. Okay, what is that investigation of log file? Investigation of log file is basically type of technique in which the investigator are basically using the investigation process of the log files over the log file and get some details from them, get some data from them. So this is a part of investigation of log file. The next part, that is the report generation, and in this part we are basically going to cover, that is the report generation part for submitting the report into the court of law, according to the court of law, into the court. So how we can create it? By the using of tool, that is like the access data, like the autopsy. So we can create the report, and after that we will submit that report into a court. So these are all the 28 modules which will define you all the thing that is related to computer forensics as well as cyber forensics. Clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's start our first module, that is introduction of cyber forensics today. And today we are going to discuss about few things that is related to the cyber forensics as well as the computer forensics. So let's start our first module, that is based on the computer forensics, and we will cover in this module. That is, I already told you like what we covered in this particular module, right? So without wasting time, let's start. Okay. So what is computer forensics? So if you are going to discuss about like computer forensics, so we can say that it's just a branch of digital forensic science, and in this we can obtain as well as govern the different types of evidence found from the different types of computing device that is based on the computer, that is based on the digital storage media. So overall, if you are just saying, so the computer forensic is just a branch of digital forensic, and in this type of computer branch, we can obtain to evidence found in computer as well as the digital storage media, which is called as a computing device. So if we are going to discuss about like what is the rules of this computer forensics, so the different types of rules is basically, so not for the rules, and that is the goals. Okay, so what the goals of computer forensics? So the goal of computer forensics is basically to examine that particular computing device, we can say that that is a digital storage media, in a forensically sound manner. So what is the forensically sound manner? Forensically sound manner is basically a type of method in which we can use the different types of technique, different types of methodology, and different types of method for gathering the image, for gathering the evidence, for analyzing the evidence, for performing the different types of activities, for finding the different types of clues from the evidence. So this is a complete process of forensically sound manner, is with the aim of identifying, maintaining, recovering, analyzing, and present facts and opinion about the digital information. So this is a complete part of computer forensics. So if we are going to talk about like what's the aim, so aim is basically that is identify the uh, evidence, identify the clues in that particular evidence file, maintaining the integrity of that particular evidence, recover the data from that particular image file, analyze the data and find out the culprit activities, and presenting the facts into the court, and opinion about that digital information with your colleagues. So these are all the things which we included here, which we involved into the computer forensics part. So in as per the definitions basis, the computer forensics is a branch of digital forensic science obtaining to evidence found in computers and digital storage media. And the goal of computer forensics is to examine digital storage media, yeah, digital media in a forensically sound manner with the aim to identify, maintaining, covering, analyzing, and presenting facts and opinion about that information, digital information. So this is a complete definition of the computer forensics as a branch of digital forensics, as a branch of cyber forensics, right? So now the next thing, that is objectives. So suppose that you are working as a forensic investigator. So there are few types of objectives you need to complete once you are just handling any type of case that is related to the computer forensics. So what type of objective you need to complete? The first one, that is to track and prosecute perpetrator, that is the party of the cyber crime. So firstly, you need to track the pathway. You need to track the prosecutor, means the attacker, and the prosecute perpetrator, appradi of the cyber crime. So if the any type of cyber criminal is basically involved to perform any type of cyber crime, so firstly you need to track that particular path. You need to track that particular attacker's activity. The next thing, that is the next objective is basically to gather evidence of cyber crimes in forensically sound manner. So in that scenario, you need to follow the different types of forensically sound techniques, methods, and a methodology to identify, to maintaining, to recovering, for analyzing the present and presenting the facts into the court. So these are all the techniques which you have to perform over the particular govern evidence using of the forensically sound manner methods as well as techniques. Okay, so the next objective is basically that is to estimate the potential impact of a malicious activity on the victim. So as investigator, you need to analyze all the things. You need to analyze the impact, potential impact which is performed over the victim by the malicious activity of the cyber criminal, and you need to estimate proper analyze the estimate how much loss is basically taken by the victim. So these are all the things is basically going to cover in the third objective as a forensic investigator. The fourth objective, that is to minimize the tangible and the intangible losses to the organization. So you need to maintain the integrity, you need to maintain the security patterns of that particular organization. You need to fulfill the uh, whole blocks of that particular organization for minimizing the tangible and the intangible losses, which is basically which performed by the cyber criminal over that particular organization already. So this is our fourth objective. The fifth objective basically to protect that organization from the similar incidents in future. So if the any type of crime that is done by the cyber criminal over the organization, and you know very well this type of activities this type of activity, maybe in future the cyber criminal again going to try it to crash the server, to try to perform. So in that scenario, you need to protect that organization to perform, to advise some countermeasures and provide some countermeasures for the similar incidents in future. So these are all the 5 types of objectives. If you're working as a forensic investigator, so you need to follow and you need to complete these all the computer forensic objectives. Okay, clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the next part, that is suppose that you are working as a forensic investigator. So you firstly you need to know about like what type of cyber crime is basically doing by the cyber criminals over the civil, over the criminal investigation. Yeah, you will over the different types of organizations also. So these are all. Firstly, we need to cover as a cyber crime, like what is cyber crime, what type of cyber activities, and different types of cyber attack we are also going to discuss. So firstly we will discuss about like what is cyber crime. So what is cyber crime? So cyber crime is basically, you can say that it defined as illegal acts involving the computing device. If the cyber criminal basically to perform any type of crime which is defining any illegal acts involving computer device, network, systems or application. So in that scenario, you can say that that type of crime is basically called as a cyber crime, which is done by which is done by the internet as well as the electronic devices using by the cyber criminal. So this is the complete definition, which this is a complete definition of cyber crime. Clear? Now, let's we discuss about the types of cyber crime. So, firstly, we need to understand like on the line of attack, the cyber crimes is basically categorized on the basis of line of attacks in 2 types. The first type of cyber crime, that is called as an internal attacks type of cyber crime, and the second type of cyber crime, that is called as an external type of cyber crimes. So the internal types of cyber crime is basically define you the breach of trust and unsatisfied employee within organization. So if the any type of employee which is breaking the trust of that particular organization, as well as they are unsatisfied with the policies of the organization. So in that scenario, the employee will perform the different types of activities in that particular organization on the basis of spying, means jasusi, in the basis of like intellectual theft of property, as well as they can also perform the manipulation of the record, which is called as the alteration of the records, and they can also perform the Trojan horse attack to access the data, to access the whole network, and they after that they will get some details from there, they can get some data from there. So these are all the types of cyber crimes uh, attacks on the basis of internal, right? The next type of attack, that is on the basis of external attacks, and in this type of attack the cyber criminal is basically, as well as the attackers are basically uh, hired either by the attackers hired either by internal or external entity to destroy the organization reputation. So in that scenario, cyber criminals, yeah, cyber organizations are actually want to destroy the reputation of that particular original organization as well as the working organization. So they are basically hired external as well as the internal entities. What is internal entity? Suppose that a type of person is placed into the organization which is already involving into the cyber crime, as well as they are hire the external entities as well as the external attackers to perform the any type of to perform the crimes over the external basis. Okay, so there are multiple types of crime which is performed by the external entities like SQL attacks or over the web applications for gathering some data from there from the database. They can also perform the brute forcing attack over the credential panel. They can also perform the identity theft. They can also perform the social engineering type of manipulation attacks with the using of phishing and spoofing attack. They can also use the denial of service attack as the external entity while they're using a botnet. So if that cyber criminal is basically using this type of attack, so in that scenario, the server will crash it out, server will faces the different types of destroyed activity where the denial of service attack. And the last one, that is cyber defamation, that is called the badnami of the badnami into the cyber world. So the cyber criminals are basically using this method most of the time for destroy the reputation of that particular working organization. So these are all the types of, these are all the categorized based cyber crimes which can be held, which can be performed by the cyber criminal over that particular normal persons as well as the organizations. Clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So the next thing, that is the types of cyber crimes, other types of cyber crime. So there are multiple types of other cyber crime. That is the first one, which is called as a computer fraud. So the computer fraud type of crime, if the any type of person is basically involved to perform the activity which is called as a computer fraud, like suppose that you are just buying a type of computer and you don't know about that computer, it's a theft computer as well as this is a second hand computer. So you are just going to buy a second hand computer, but actually that computer is basically a theft computer. So in that scenario, you will face trouble once you are just buying that computer. So in that case, the cyber criminal basically perform that type of fraud that is called as a computer fraud. Okay. The next type of cyber crime, that is related to the privacy violation. Now, what is privacy violation? If you are just exposing, yeah, if you are exposing, if you are already access, if the cyber criminal is already access any type of system of the different user as well as the mobile of the different user, and they just export some data which you have to get it from that particular mobile device as well as system over the internet. So in that scenario, they will performing actually a type of cyber crime which is called as a privacy violation. Okay. The next type of cyber crime which is called as a identity theft. Now what is that? Identity theft is completely related to the stealing information from the system as well as the network. So if you are facing a trouble for, yeah, if you are facing this type of activity like the identity theft is basically performed like the two ways. Sometimes cyber criminals are using the another person identity for entering in that particular organization to performing the internal entities attack. And sometimes the identity theft is basically stealing some information from the system as well as the network from that particular organization. So these are the two types of identity theft attack which is used by the cyber criminal to had to destroy the company's reputation as well as to access that company data and sell it out on the higher price. So the next type of cyber crime attack, that is sharing copyrighted files oblique information. So now what is that? Sharing copyrighted files oblique information. That is completely like if the cyber criminal is basically involved in any type of case. Yeah, if the cyber criminal is basically involving for any type of organization and they are just sharing any type of file as well as leaking the confidential file to the competitor company. So in that scenario, they are facing some trouble, and that person is basically doing a type of crime, that is sharing copyrighted files oblique information. So if I'm just giving you some example, like suppose that the person A is basically working in a company and they are working on the project, and person B is basically involving person A is basically is working in another company, and another company person B is offer the person A to just come in my company with this project, and after that I will give you some files. So in that scenario, if the person A is involving, yeah, person A is basically sharing that copyrighted files as well as the confidential file to that company, to another company or the competitor of your own company. So in that scenario, they will doing a type of crime which is called as a cyber crime of computer fraud, cyber crime of sharing copyrighted files oblique information, right? Clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The next type of crime, which is called as the electronic money transfer. So the electronic money transfer are mostly involving into the net banking as well as the transaction procedure. So in that scenario, the cyber criminals are using a different types of attacks on the basis of social engineering, on the basis of MITM, and they are just gathering some packet between the transmission channel, and after that they are just performing the type of attack which is called as the electronic money transfer, right? So these are the types of attack which is involving into the cyber crime. So if we are going to discuss about like MITM attack, so MITM attack are basically working. Yeah, MITM attack are basically firstly called as a man in the middle attack, which is using for capturing the packet between the transmission channel, and after that they can uh, after that, once they are just captured the packet, they can send any, they can change, yeah, they can alteration, they can perform the manipulation alteration part over that particular packet and change the data which we have to cover into the packet captain, like they can change the amount of the money, they can change the account number which is available into the packet, and after that they just send that packet to that particular bank, and after that the transaction will occur. So this type of activity is basically involving into the electronic money transfer by the using of MITM attack. So if I'm giving you some example that is related to the lemon language of the MITM attack, so in that scenario, suppose that the person A is want to send a message to person B that is hi, but the person A is basically a attacker and they are involving, they are capturing the packet between the person A and B. So once the person is A is sending a packet to person B that is hi, that is captured by the C person, that is the attacker, and C person can change the packet. Maybe they can change the packet between the transmission channel, and after that they can change the packet by convert that high packet to buy packet, and after that they just send the packet to person B. So the person B is basically thinking they are receiving a packet by the person A that is buy, but the person A is sended the message to person B that is high. So this type of activity is basically called as a MITM man the middle attack, packet manipulation of the packets, captured packet, which is already involved into the electronic money transfer as well as the MITM attack. The next type of attack that is called as the electronic money laundering, the sixth one, right? So this is complete called as a convert of the black money to white money. So the cyber criminals are basically using this method for gathering some data, gathering some money with a different account by the using of electronic, with the using of electronic money laundering procedure. So there are multiple movies are already created on the basis of electronic money laundering. So I'll just suggest you guys please go through and see that movie so you will easily understand how the electronic money laundering are basically work. So the movie name is the Shivaji the Boss as well as the Commando 2. So if you are just going to see that movie, so you will easily understand like how these attacks are basically works. Okay. The next thing that is the ATM fraud. So anyone can tell me how what type of ATM fraud is basically doing by the cyber criminal nowadays? Anyone?
Carding.
Carding. Okay. What type of procedure are you using in carding, Shrikanta?
Like they are using American cards or some other country cards and using them to buy in Amazons and all.
Okay. Can you please explain more?
Like they were setting up proxies and making that taking that cards from the black websites and using them for buying stuff like phones or anything and selling them outside again.
Okay, this is a type of procedure which is used by the cyber criminal, but that is not a ATM fraud.
And card tampering also they can do.
Card tampering. Okay, can you please explain the card tampering?
There's a card reader, like first they check, they take the card by card reader, like they'll fix it to the ATM machines and check for the cards, and
Exactly.
they'll capture the pin codes, and then they'll start swiping off the with the credit cards or cards.
Exactly. So this procedure is basically called as a skimmer devices. The cyber criminals are basically doing this activity with the using of skimmer device.
Yes.
Okay. So right, Srikantam is right, because nowadays the most effective type of attack is the cloning of ATM cards as well as the carding system. So in that scenario, the cyber criminals is basically using a fake scanner, fake card scanners over the original card scanner. So once the any type of person is basically going to extract, if they're going to transact the money from the ATM machine. So once they are just going to inject their card into the scanner part, so the fake scanner is basically scan the magnetic strip and the code which is available under the magnetic strip, that is 16-digit code, and they are just save that code into the chip. And after that, once the person is basically typing the pin code, so they are using a small camera over the pin panel. So after that, once the person is basically uh, pressing the key via the keyboard as well as the key system, so they just save that key which is called as a pin number, and after that they can use that particular pin number and just a card which is already saved that magnetic strip, and they can transact the money from that particular ATM card, right? ATM machine with the using of cloning card. So this procedure is also used into the ATM machine, as well as there are something type of different procedures also used, that is called as a cloning of ATM cards, right? So they are using a different types of skimmer device for cloning the cards. So uh, I will show you some video that is related to the cloning of ATM cards, so you will easily understand how this attack will occur. Okay, server is not having the capacity for handling the different types of attack in that, so the server is going to crash it out. So this type of activity is basically used by the cyber criminals for destroying the reputation of that organization by the using of denial service attack, as well as DDoS attack by the botnets over the routers as well as the servers of that particular organization. So I hope so. This type of attack you already covered in your CS training. So this attack is basically used by the different types of tools. Also, the cyber criminals are using the tools for performing this type of attack. So in this particular investigation uh, course, we will also discuss about the types of DOS attack, and we will also going to discuss about the countermeasures of the DOS attack also, that is comes from the web type of attacks, right? So let's in future, in coming classes, we will see how this type of things is basically doing, how this type of thing is basically provide the security related to the DOS attacks. Okay. The next type of computer cyber crime, that is called as a MITM attack. So now what is MITM attack? MITM I already defined you like man in the middle type of attack, which is called as a packet capturing between the transaction channel. Right guys? And the next part, that is called as spam. Now what is that spam? Spam is basically called as a fake mailing system. So multiple types of cyber criminals are using that procedure for fake mailing system to performing the attack over that particular organization, to gathering some data from there, to gathering some information from there by the using of fake mail system, as well they can also use for communicate with the other person by the using of fake person's mail ID. So these the activity basically used by the cyber criminals, and these are the types of cyber crime which is doing by the cyber criminals over the different types of persons, over the different types of organizations also. So this is all about like how the cyber crimes are basically occur. Clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So the next thing in cyber crimes related to that is called as a cyberbullying. So anyone have an idea about like what is cyberbullying?
सर ब्लैकमेलिंग टाइप का कुछ
Yeah,
ऑनलाइन ब्लैकमेलिंग
exactly. You can say that it's a type of cyberbullying is not a type of complete cyber crime because sometimes the cyber criminals are involved in that cyberbullying things as well as the normal persons are also involved in that cyberbullying. The different types of cases is basically related to the cyberbullying is just like catfishing type of cases, trolling cases as well as the like blackmailing cases, and they are just creating a fake profile for influence the different types of person which is available on the social media platform. So these type of types attacks is basically using, yeah, basically doing by the normal persons also. So this is a low type of cyber crime, but it is also a type of cyber crime which is called as a cyber bullying. So let's see a small video so we will easily understand like how the cyber bullyings are basically done over the different types of persons, and they can done by the different types of pupils as well as the different types of cyber criminals also. So let's see how this attack will look. So you will see that video again, and after that you will understand easily like how the cyberbullying are actually works. Okay. Okay, so the next thing that is in the cyber forensic that is related to the data and the information. So suppose that if you're working as a cyber forensic investigator, so firstly you need to understand about like what is the difference between the data and the information, and actually what cyber criminal is exactly want. They want some data, they want some information. So anyone can tell me like what is the difference between the data and the information first, and after that you guys to tell me what the cyber criminal is actually want. They want some data, they want some information. Okay, tell me. Anyone? Guys, are you there?
यस सर
Anyone
सर
wants?
पता नहीं
Okay. Uh, no one. Okay, not an issue. Okay, so if we are going to discuss about like what is the difference between like data and the information, so I will give you one small example. So after that, you will easily understand like the difference between both of them, right? So the first the example is that suppose that you are working in a company and your company and your manager is simply said you please go into the record section and just take these details from there. The manager is basically define you only the name of that particular employee name, and after that they are just saying you please give me that details of that particular employee, which is having the address of that particular employee, the phone number of that employee, the email ID of that employee, and other things also. So in that scenario, if you are just going into the record section, so all the details which is having some useful and unuseful knowledge, so which is called as the data. But once you are just extract, once you are just govern some useful knowledge from there, which is useful knowledge from that particular data as well as the record. So that type of things is basically that type of useful knowledge basically called as the information. So this is the best example like how to understand the difference between like data and the information. Clear, guys? And the cyber criminal is actually wants the information, not the data, because if you are already learned about the web penetration testing about the SQL injection, so you will easily understand like we will get the different, we will get the data. Once we will get the database, and they are having a different types of tables in that, but we are only selected a juicy table for gathering some usernames and password and the other details from that particular users table. That is actually a information, not a data, right? So we can say that once you have to extract any type of useful knowledge from that particular record, so we can say that that is called as a information. And once the any type, once you are just storing any type of useful and unuseful knowledge in the record section, so this is called as a data. You can say that data is basically governed with the using of informations also, but the information which we have extracted from that data, right? Clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we need to discuss about, as a forensic investigator, like what type of information is basically compromised over the internet by the different types of persons. Okay, so what type of information is basically compromised over the internet with the using of different types of person, that is related to like they are divided into the four categories. The first category, which is called as a confidential information. The second category, which is called as the financial information. The third category, which is called as a health information. The fourth category, which is called as a person information. So there are basically four types of information categories which is involved into the cyber forensics information part. So in that scenario, the persons are basically disclose our data. The first category, like the confidential information. So that first type of information you don't want to share with anyone, so we can say that that information is a confidential, just like Aadhaar card, passwords, and birth certificate, passport details, PAN card details, voter ID card details. So these are all the types of details you don't want to share with anyone over the internet very easily. But that type of informations are very cruel information which the attackers actually want to know about you. So in that scenario, the cyber criminals are basically using a different types of activities and different types of attacks over that particular organization, over that particular government organization, to getting some these type of details. So if I'm giving you one example, like the attack, that is the attack actually occurred by the cyber criminal in 2018. So the cyber criminals performed attack over the Bharat Gas Service server, and they can just extract that data from there as the Aadhaar card of the different users, and they are just uh, note that all the Aadhaar card into the file and just post it over the Twitter as a link. So anyone can come on that particular time and they can extract the Aadhaar card of the different users. So this type of activity is basically involved into the cyber crime, and the type of information that is a leaking of confidential information, right? So the cyber criminal basically actually want the information about your confidential information category. The next type of information, that is called as a financial information, and that type of information completely into the money, just like financial statement, bank details, login credential, as well as the bank passwords. Okay, so these are all the details which is involving into the financial information. So if you are going to give some example about that particular already attack occurred by the cyber criminals, so that type of attack is most of the time doing by the freakers, and the freakers are basically using the mechanism for the spoofing calls as well as the phishing attack to perform that type of activity. So the attack is already covered, the attack is already done, that is over the October of 2019, and this attack is performed by the cyber criminal over the wife of politician in Punjab. So they can extract the data from, they can extract the information from that particular wife's account, and after that they are just simply calling to her wife, and they are simply said, hello ma'am, I'm calling from this card department and your card expiry very soon. Please confirm your 16-digit number and your CVV code, and sorry, not CVV, your expiry date and your PIN number, and after that you will receive an OTP on your registered mobile number, and once you are just sharing me the OTP, your card renew for the lifetime. So the ladies don't know about that particular crime, and they are just simply sharing all the details to that particular freaker, small freaker person, and after that, that freaker is basically gather the 25 lakh rupees and deduct the 25 lakh rupees from that particular card, yeah, particular details from that particular card. So this type of activity is basically doing by the cyber criminal, which is gathering, once they are just gathering the financial information about you and your family members as well as your colleagues. So I just prefer you guys, please don't tell any information about to any other person to related to the financial information, right? The next type of information, which is called as a health information. So what is that? Health information is completely related to the policy and diseases. So if the anyone is known that like you have some types of policy, you are already taken some types of policies from the insurance companies as well as you having some diseases. So in that scenario, they can use and they can misuse also of that particular health information, and they are just simply calling you and said, hello sir, I'm calling from this insurance company and you are already taken some insurance from our company and your insurance date is going to expire and I will give you some amount offered for the next premium. So if you want to gather, if you want to get some, if you want to get that offered, so please give me some details and after that I will raise some token, so you will get you will get some discount offer over that particular next premium. So if this type of activity is basically, if you are just receiving this type of call from the different types of people, so I will prefer you guys please verify that calls first, and after that you will share the details that is related to the health information. So if I'm giving you the already performed attack, so you know, if you reading about the news, that is a Dr. Batra lab client details already leaked in November of 2020. So this attack is basically done by the cyber criminals for taking some decision information about that clients of the Dr. Batra lab. Have you heard that crime, guys?
No, sir.
No, not really, sir.
Okay, so just search on the Google and read it about that crime. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, the next type of crime, which is called the next type of information, which is called as a personal information. So the personal information is basically related to a such type of information. You actually don't want to share that personal information to anyone very easily, but you can already upload that information over the social media platform very easily, like Aadhaar, your address, your phone numbers, your DOBs, as well as your interest, your non-interest, your travel history, your everything. You can upload it on the social media profile. So in that sense, cyber criminals are using that profile for using some cyberbullying as a cash phishing also. So they are just performing this type of activity for performing a cyber crime over the normal person. So these are the types of information which is used by the cyber criminals for performing the attacks that is related to the cyber crimes over that normal persons. Clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is all about like how the cyber criminals are basically works and how they can extract the data from there and how they can perform the different types of attack over the normal persons as well as the organizations. Okay.